Hello, welcome back to Expansive. I'm your host, Yar Tomlu, and it's the crazy time of year. It's the one we all look forward to. It is E3. It is just around the corner. We've got tons of press conferences coming up. There's one from Bethesda, there's EA, there's Square Enix, of course, Nintendo, Microsoft, Sony, the lot. And what we're going to do some regular content for you ahead of E3 to kind of give you a feel for what you might expect at the conferences. It's going to be slightly different though, because we're going to have a bit more of a DLC side to it, but we're also going to look at other things that might get announced as well, which could technically affect DLC as well. But we're going to kick things off with the first press conference, which actually happens ahead of E3 on June the 9th, and that is going to be Electronic Arts EA. EA Play 2018. EA have been doing this for a couple of years now. They've had a few surprises here and there, but generally people tend to have a feel and a flavour for the EA press conferences. They're not usually the highlight of E3, shall we say. Having said that, they have dropped a few surprises in there, like remember that Mirror's Edge reveal? That was pretty awesome. And obviously there's been the stuff about Titanfall and things like that. So, you know, they're not always bad, and I think that potentially this year could be very interesting because they've got a bit more of a diverse lineup than normal, and EA is actually riding a bit of a coastal wave at the moment. I mean, they've obviously had a lot of negative press over the years, but at the moment their shares are high. You know, they're turning things around a bit more. You know, Burnout Paradise Remastered did really well for them, so I would imagine that we're probably going to see some more remasters because that's their first foray into doing that this gen. You know, it might be the right time to watch EA, and I think this press conference is going to be a nice potentially way to kick off E3 and all the excitement that's ahead of us in the next week. But let's kick off anyway, and let's sort of see what we know what's going to be coming to this press conference and what we sort of think is coming and things that we're going to just pie in the sky. We're going to just have a little guess at some things. So here we go. Not doing this alphabetically, but we might as well start with the biggie, Anthem, which is BioWare's next project. This took a lot of people by surprise because BioWare are renowned for their massive RPGs, and you know, people love the Dragon Ages, the Mass Effects, and the Jade Empires. And a lot of people were hoping for a new Jade Empire game, which has been many, many years, and I'm a big fan and I can't wait to see it, so please do it soon. Having said that, BioWare's last effort, as we all know, was a bit of a fail, being Mass Effect Andromeda. Now, I personally didn't mind it. It's certainly not a series highlight for me, but I did enjoy it. But then I looked on the PlayStation Store last night and I was really sad to see that it's available for $7.99 now. And, you know, it's like the game is, you know, barely a year old and it's just dropped so massively, and it makes me worry for the future of the franchise. It's quite possible that we've seen the last of Mass Effect at least for the next 10 years. Hopefully not, but it's kind of it shows me that EA see BioWare going in a different direction now. We do know that they are working on Dragon Age 4, and we'll get to that in a little bit, but Anthem is the next confirmed game that they're working on. It's the one that we're due to see. It's going to arrive in 2019, so we're expecting a lot more build up now and ahead of that launch. You know, we did have a brief look at it last year at EA Play, so it's already been announced. So what we're expecting to see now is a lot more gameplay footage. We're going to understand a bit more about the story, exactly what players are supposed to be doing in there, how it actually all comes together. Whether this is just EA's version of Destiny, we don't know. But BioWare need a hit. After Mass Effect Andromeda, it's pretty clear that BioWare need a success story, and EA are going to be backing them fully for this, because EA have quite interestingly in the last year have sort of said that single player adventures are dead. Clearly, Sony and others have something to say about that, with like God of War and Detroit Become Human and Yakuza, etc., etc., etc. could go on. So EA's focus is clearly going to be on massive multiplayer experiences, at least for the next 2 years, until they realize they were wrong and then they go back to doing single player stuff too. So this is exactly what Anthem is going to be. So we know that they wear exosuits, they're called javelins, they're all customizable and they have superhuman abilities. But we also kind of want to find out what Anthem actually is. We want to find out what you can do in there. We want to see what kind of creatures you have to fight against. And we want to know more about what Anthem actually is and why we should be excited about it when we've already got Destiny on the market and we've got other massive experiences as well. You know, EA need to be competitive, and this is exactly, I think, going to be one of their major highlights of this show. But we know that Anthem is releasing in March 2019, and it's going to be interesting because, you know, a lot of people have likened Anthem to the likes of Borderlands, and so with 2K basically saying that Borderlands 3 is not going to show up at E3 in any form whatsoever, this could kind of fill that void a little bit. We also know some of the mission types are going to be dynamic, so players are going to need to work together to complete common goals, but we don't really know a lot about Anthem, and we know that EA have actually teased and said expect Anthem reveals through their EA Play E3 show, so we're expecting Anthem to play a massive part in EA Play 2018, and I would bet your bottom dollar probably going to have a big section of the the show dedicated to that. So keep your eyes peeled for Anthem, because EA is banking a lot on it, and it's the game that I think that they're really hoping is gonna, you know, bolster their profit margins a little bit. So keep your eyes peeled for that. Another massive game, which I'm sure you can anticipate what I'm going to say next, that you can expect to see at the show, is Battlefield 5, which has now been confirmed to release this year. Now, obviously, we've gone from Battlefield 1 last time to Battlefield 5, so it looks like they're going back to numbered installments again. And we know that this is a World War II themed military shooter, so they're keeping with the kind of the World War themes at the moment. And that is quite interesting, because if you look at what happened to Call of Duty with World at War, I mean, it's quite interesting to see how quickly Black Ops 4 was announced. I don't think World at War did as well as Activision would have hoped. I do think the Call of Duty train is starting to sail a little bit. Meanwhile, Battlefield's momentum is growing all the time, and Battlefield 5 looks pretty damn incredible. Obviously, this is going to be a massive part of their show because it's releasing in October of this year. It's going to be done by EA DICE. We know there's going to be 64-person events. There's going to be a massive single-player campaign, which is another massive point of interest if you look at COD, who have completely ditched single player for Black Ops 4. So yeah, you couldn't really script it, could you? You go from EA telling the world that single player adventures are dead and they're going to go for a full multiplayer focus, but they maintain the single player campaign within Battlefield 5, and then it's Call of Duty that scraps the single player campaign altogether. I mean, yeah, it's interesting. It's a very interesting time in the industry, and I guess EA probably see that they just had to include this now, but it's fascinating. It's fascinating to see, because you always compare the two. You always see what one is doing compared to the other. And Battlefield retaining that single player campaign is going to make it more favorable to some than others, I think. Even though Activision's percentages proved only about 40% of people actually finished the campaign in previous Call of Duty games. But yes, we're returning to the World War theme again. We know there's a Battle Royale mode as well. Again, we don't know a lot about Battlefield 5 at this point. What we do know is that they're following the Titanfall and the Battlefront aspect of free downloadable content post-launch. Now, this is something that Activision have also done with Call of Duty. It appears that the traditional season pass, at least for now, is gone. And that is something that we're quite happy about, because over time, even though we're a DLC-focused site, it's become very clear and very obvious that season passes are dated. They're an archaic way of doing things. And it's also a bit of a cash grab. And I think EA have been very much accused of being cash grabbers in the past, as have Activision, and so both have become very cautious about that. And in the past, you've known for a fact that you buy the game up front and you don't get any of the content unless you pay another 40 quid on top to get the full map packs or whatever. And people have taken that for granted. I think developers and producers have taken that for granted. But over time, you've seen other companies like Halo 5, I think, really helped usher the way with that, with the ridiculous amount of free content updates that came out for that. I mean, full credit to Free for Free for what they did. It's stunning. And obviously Titanfall did a similar thing. You had all the free content takes for that. I think it says a lot when Activision and EA are now both basically saying free content updates for their game after launch. I think it pretty much tells the rest of the industry now that season passes, for map packs at least, are dead. Premium DLC might still have a place, we don't know, but certainly for the multiplayer games of old, I don't think it's something that's going to be around for too much longer. And I'm fully for that. And I really completely agree with that, and I think that's exactly the right move. In many ways, I think this probably should have happened sooner. But yeah, great to see that EA are more on board with that now, and they have been, in fairness, with Battlefront 2 and of course Titanfall 2 as well, and Activision are now following suit. So yeah, we know that Battlefield 5 is coming to PS4, PC and Xbox One. There's going to be an early trial, but we know that the game is going to be available on October the 11th. There's going to be some changes, and we're looking forward to seeing what EA announced about Battlefield 5 at E3's EA Play 2018, so expect that, much like Anthem, to play a massive part in the show. There are a couple of obvious things that EA will probably announce, which we're going to talk a bit about as well. For instance, FIFA 19. I mean, it's pretty much a cert that that's coming out. What we do know as well is that EA are going to be bringing it to Switch. So what's nice to see is there's going to be continued EA support of Switch. Apparently FIFA 19 is going to see a substantial upgrade on Switch as well, graphical performance. It's still not quite on Frostbite yet. However, EA have not completely ruled out bringing Frostbite to Switch. It just needs to kind of work for them and work on the format. But what they have said is the update on Switch for FIFA 18 for the World Cup actually shows some of the updates that they're bringing in FIFA 19 on Switch, and it shows some of the graphical improvements and the performance upgrades. So keep an eye out for that. If you do have FIFA 18 on Switch and you haven't downloaded the World Cup update yet, do that, take a look, because you'll probably get a bit of a feel for how FIFA 19 is going to perform when they release it on Switch. Again, we don't know the details. We don't know if they're going to add the career mode, which was absent last time. Probably not, because again, that's a Frostbite exclusive thing at the moment. Again, that could change. But yeah, FIFA 19 is practically a cert. We'll find out much more about that, but I expect pretty much similar sort of things to previous FIFA games. Yeah. But you'll also expect to see stuff like Madden NFL, you'll see NHL and NBA Live. Now, NFL 19 is going to include the next chapter of Long Shot, which is the story mode which they brought out last year, which is like a continuation you saw of FIFA 18 from 17. And of course, you got NHL 19 as well. And of course, you're going to see The Sims 4 is going to be launching a seasons expansion on June the 22nd. We're probably not going to see much about The Sims 5 just yet, as there's a lot of content updates and expansions. We might potentially see a Sims 4 announcement for Switch. That would be great. What I think we'll see is probably more DLC and expansions for The Sims announced at the event, continued content updates. But I think for me, the big news here would potentially be to see The Sims 4 on Switch. I think that would perfectly suit the handheld console, and I think that that's something EA, it would likely be their biggest hit on Switch to date. So yeah, we're expecting to see more from The Sims, probably a new content update, but they'll also probably talk a bit about the season's expansion, which is due later this month. And I would like to see some mobile stuff as well. Could be anything, could be Need for Speed, you know, they've got so many IPs they could use for mobile. We know they've got a lot of success in the Star Wars front on mobile as well. Now then, here's something interesting about the independent side of things. So Giant Bomb did a podcast very recently where they had an email from a source who they felt was pretty credible. Now this email, it suggests that EA are about ready to unveil Unravel 2. Now Unravel has done quite well for EA. It's been in pretty much every other format. I think it's been profitable for them. So it wouldn't be a massive surprise, but it would also be a welcome one. Unravel is kind of an IP that's recognizable now from an EA perspective, so they could kind of do a bit more with it. And it seems like a natural thing for it to have a sequel. So yes, it appears that Coldwood Interactive may actually be working on Unravel 2. So don't be entirely surprised if that does show up. Something else that's interesting. The Giant Bomb report also had some information on a new Command & Conquer mobile game. Now, Command & Conquer, if you've never played them, are a series of old school RTS adventures. You had Red Alert, which is probably the most famous. It's kind of gone a bit dormant over the last couple of years, but it's a massive IP that EA have in their back catalogue. They have many that you've probably forgotten about, and then when someone tells you, like, what? Why are they not doing anything with it? What are they doing? Command & Conquer is kind of one of them, and it's rumoured that it might get a mobile game, but similar in style to Clash Royale. Now, this is actually an incredibly smart move by EA, because Clash Royale is, for me, apart from Pokemon Go, probably the biggest game on mobile right now. It's also tower defense strategy games. It works really well. The multiplayer aspect of it is one of the best I've played on mobile on any game. I get really hooked and addicted to it when I dive in on it. It's fun and catchy. You know what? EA have actually said in a recent earnings call that they have an unannounced mobile game on the way. So this could be it. And you know what? It's a big enough intellectual property that people will pick it up. And it sounds like it's got a decent base if they're basing it on Clash Royale. I mean, arguably, I would like to see a bit more Command & Conquer, perhaps on the Xbox, PC, maybe even a Switch Command & Conquer, like a compilation or something like that. Who knows? But I'll take anything. A bit more Command & Conquer, I'm more than happy with. And this could be a great idea for me. This could be a big deal for them. So don't be entirely surprised if you see something Command & Conquer related at EA's EA Play, but it's likely to be a mobile game at this point, as far as we know, or according to Giant Bomb at least anyway. And those are the only two games that they've kind of heard about. Now then, the biggie that people are hoping to see from this press conference is Dragon Age 4. Now, as we know, the last installment was Dragon Age Inquisition that came out a couple of years back now. And we do know for an absolute certainty that BioWare are working on Dragon Age 4. Why? Because they told us. But we've not seen any gameplays. We've not seen a trailer. We don't even know what it's going to be called. We don't even know if it's going to be called Dragon Age 4. I mean, the last one wasn't called Dragon Age 3, so why would we expect it to be called Dragon Age 4? It's probably going to have some kind of subtitle, and that's fair enough. But we do know that Mark Dara, the BioWare executive producer, has confirmed that work has begun on the game, and they've been splitting their time between it and Anthem. And obviously, as we know, Anthem is going to be wrapping up in March 2019. Obviously, they're going to have a team in place to do all the post-content launch stuff, but they're obviously going to have their core team working on Dragon Age 4. So, are we going to see something from that? Even a tease, just a slight one, at EA Play? Answer, possibly. I wouldn't say it would be for certain. I mean, it's something that people want to see, even if it's a glimpse. I wouldn't expect Dragon Age 4 to appear any earlier than 2020 at this point. So I guess it's down to EA to decide, do they want to show something now to tease people ahead of 2 years wait? Do they want to wait until next year, 2019, when they have a bit more time like they're doing with Anthem? So they've got about 6 to 8 months now before the game launches. So do they want to do a similar sort of thing with Anthem that they're doing, Dragon Age that they're going to do with Anthem this year? Or do they just want to have a little tiny tease and say, you can't play this for about 2 years? I know what I would kind of prefer at this point. I hate being teased for things too far in advance. Having said that, I do love a good surprise. And while this wouldn't be a big surprise, it might be nice to at least get a title for the next Dragon Age game. I mean, at the moment, we're just calling it Dragon Age 4. So if there's a title in the wild, that will make coverage a bit easier. That will kind of build expectation over time. Because Dragon Age Inquisition did really well for BioWare. Mass Effect Andromeda was the one everyone's expecting to do big numbers, and actually Dragon Age Inquisition did a lot better, which is quite surprising. But I adore Dragon Age. I love Inquisition. I even enjoyed 2, which I know a lot of people didn't. So I'm really looking forward to the next installment. At the same time, I'm feeling I can wait a little bit longer till I find out for sure what this game is. So we'll find out sooner rather than later. But yeah, expect possibly something from that at E3. Another one that has been rumored quite heavily and we think is probably quite likely is Plants vs. Zombies Garden Warfare 3. Now, I quite like the Garden Warfare games. They do a good job. They're good at what they do. They're fun. Having said that, I would quite like this one to appear on Switch. I think that the Switch would benefit, and I think the game would benefit from Switch. It would do the best there because I think that the PC, PS4, Xbox One space is a bit crowded for shooters at the moment, and I think these games have kind of got a bit lost in the shuffle. They do well, they do okay, but I think that there's better possibilities on other formats, and I think this is where EA need to start thinking about their overall focus. Having said that, it does use the Frostbite engine, which currently is not supported on Switch, which is a problem. Now, personally as well, I am a fan of what Plants vs. Zombies used to be, so I would actually like to see some Plants vs. Zombies games re-released and perhaps brought out for Switch, or, you know, perhaps even a new kind of top-down Plants vs. Zombies game. Maybe even a PopCap collection, because I love Peggle, you know, I love Bejeweled and games like that. Perhaps have a nice little PopCap compilation on Switch, that'd be lovely. But yes, there is kind of suggestion that we're going to see Garden Warfare 3. There has been, the reason we say that is because there's been an Amazon listing for a comic book which detailed as a story between the official comic book bridge between the video games Garden Warfare 2 and Garden Warfare 3. So that kind of pretty much tells us that we're going to get one. And you know, that's good, but it doesn't mean to say that we'll necessarily see it. But it's been a little while since Garden Warfare 2. Don't be surprised if it pops up and if it shows up. Other stuff that we're probably not going to see, but hey, you never know, we might actually get something from it. It'd be lovely to see a new game in the SimCity series. I mean, it's been a long time. We know that the last SimCity was met with a bit of mixed reaction. It's a dormant IP now. It's an IP people love. Please do a new SimCity. That'd be great. And of course, the new Star Wars game. Now, there's been a lot of controversy about that because what was originally pitched was just a single player massive experience has kind of like been ditched. But we know that there are other Star Wars games being made. And I think it's about time that we knew what else was on the horizon for Star Wars outside of Battlefront 2, because we love Battlefront 2. It's a great game. Okay, loot boxes aside, it's fun. It's great. Use lightsabers and have space battles and things like that. It'd be nice to have a big open world Star Wars adventure that we can kind of sink our teeth into. Other stuff, maybe some UFC fighters. We don't really know whether or not there's going to be another UFC 4 game. It depends on the license works out. That would be really cool to see, perhaps a continuation of that, or if they're just going to ditch it entirely, maybe a couple of DLCs before they end the license entirely. It might be an IP that EA might look to keep. I don't know how well the games have sold in general, so it's going to be interesting to see how EA approach it, if they approach it. But what I think everyone would like to see is a new Fight Night. I think I don't just speak for myself, I speak for a lot of people want to say it's about time. We need a new Fight Night. Fight Night games have been fantastic. They're a lot of fun. Best boxing games I've ever played. And it's been a long time since the last Fight Night. I think it was Fight Night Champions a couple of years back now. We need another one, I think. We're ready. Our bodies are ready for a new Fight Night, guys. So fingers crossed. Yeah, and that's the beauty of E3. You know, we kind of hope for these things all the time. I mean, I think we come back every year to the same thing and we wish wish for similar things, and sometimes we get the things we want and sometimes we don't. So I think that's always good to keep your expectations in check. Well, obviously we know there's obviously going to be another Need for Speed game coming out as well, and Sea of Solitude, so we might see some stuff from that as well. But yeah, that's pretty much what you could expect from E3, from EA at least. It's, as I say, it's not a conference that I would expect big surprises from, but you might get a couple that catch you off guard, as has happened in previous years. We got some more exciting ones to talk about coming up very soon, including Bethesda's and Square Enix and of course Nintendo's. But yeah, hope you enjoyed it. Stay tuned for the rest of the content. Don't forget to give us a like and a subscribe, and we'll catch you on the next one.